Ladies and gents, how's it going? I hope you all are doing well. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Belgium Grand Prix that took here 2021. It was an eventful couple laps, and when I say a couple, I mean three because it was short-lived race. But we saw specifically a lot of great things in qualifying and groundbreaking accomplishments for certain individuals, which I'll talk about and mention here. So if you guys want to stay tuned to the end, leave a thumbs up if you like this kind of content, and let me know what other stuff you want to see in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, the Belgium Grand Prix, I think it's been on the F1 calendar for centuries at this point, maybe multiple centuries, maybe going back to early F1 seasons that I guess I can think about. But it is a historic track, Spa-Francorchamps, and yeah, it's one of the biggest races of the F1 season, I would say, next to Silverstone and the final season finale in Abu Dhabi. But supposed to be a pretty interesting race, but unfortunately the race only lasted 3 laps. I guess it is what it is, but it got some interesting points from the race, and we'll talk about the future of the drivers, specifically a highlight on George Russell. Yeah, so we always got to start somewhere, and I don't think there's a better place to start except free practice one. Doesn't tell you too much just because everyone's just trying to chill out in the car, and they go so much faster in qualifying, especially around here when sometimes you don't have ideal conditions. But Mick Schumacher is at the back. Nikita Mazepin's 19th, Lewis Hamilton's 18th, Kimi Räikkönen 17th, Nicholas Latifi 16th, Yuki Tsunoda 15th, George Russell 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi is 13th, Danny Ricciardo is 12th, Lance Stroll is 11th, Fernando Alonso is 10th, Esteban Ocon is 9th, Lando Norris is 8th, Sebastian Vettel is 7th, Sergio Perez is 6th, Carlos Sainz is 5th, Charles Leclerc is 4th, Pierre Gasly is 3rd, Max Verstappen is 2nd, and then Valtteri Bottas, the man of the free practices, essentially, as I've come to think of him going first fastest, number one there. But this is a big race for Max Verstappen, as there's essentially all these points on the line, and a championship to be won by every race. So he has to just think about that and take that into account. So he has to be on his top form, and so does Lewis Hamilton. They both have to be doing their top performance and trying to get the most out of their cars midway through the season. I think I would call it midway through the season. Maybe we're 2/3 of the way there, but still coming on to the back half of the season, and it's just time to essentially push for these guys, and we'll see that in the race and qualifying, essentially, for all the positions. But moving on into free practice 2 here, you have Mick Schumacher in 20th, Nikita Mazepin 19th, Charles Leclerc in 18th, George Russell in 17th, Nicholas Latifi in 16th, Danny Ricciardo in 15th, Kimi Räikkönen in 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi in 13th, Yuki Tsunoda in 12th, Carlos Sainz in 11th, Sergio Perez in 10th, Lando Norris in 9th, Sebastian Vettel in 8th, Esteban Ocon 7th, Lance Stroll 6th place, Pierre Gasly 5th, Fernando Alonso 4th, Lewis Hamilton 3rd, Valtteri Bottas 2nd, and Max Verstappen going top of the day. They're just slightly faster than free practice 1, and that was that. Essentially, you got these guys just getting familiar with the track. I don't know if there's a person on the grid this year that has not seen Silverstone or Belgium or Spa, because they're staple tracks, essentially. I would think they're staple tracks for any driver in the feeder series to F1, so everyone has a decent understanding of this, and that makes for some pretty competitive times. Would have loved to seen a proper race, but sometimes you don't get what you want. That's life, I guess. But moving into Saturday now, right before qualifying, you have FP3 and Kimi Räikkönen at the back of the pack today. Nikita Mazepin, just ahead of him in 19th, Antonio Giovinazzi 18th, Yuki Tsunoda 17th, Charles Leclerc 16th, Mick Schumacher 15th, Carlos Sainz 14th, Daniel Ricciardo 13th, Nicholas Latifi 12th, Valtteri Bottas 11th, Fernando Alonso 10th, George Russell 9th, Sebastian Vettel 8th, Pierre Gasly 7th, Lance Stroll 6th, Esteban Ocon 5th, Lando Norris 4th, sorry about that, Lewis Hamilton 3rd, Sergio Perez 2nd, and Max Verstappen first fastest of that day. And we would see a trend there with him setting some pretty quick times of that. But it was pretty wet race weekend altogether. And that's essentially what caused the race to be just only 3 laps, because FIA stewards suspended the race just because I think it was I don't know, there's a certain rule, but they couldn't continue the race because of the poor conditions that were there and everything that was going on. But you get slightly competitive times and see where drivers have their pace and can really succeed and excel in certain times and certain conditions. So going into Q1 on that Saturday afternoon, Nikita Mazepin sets a 104.939, and if you know anything about F1, that's not a great time, but for that day, it was not bad. Although he was at the back of the grid, he wasn't a bad time. In fact, he was only 3 seconds off, 4 seconds off pole, and almost 1.5 seconds essentially off 9th place. So it's difficult conditions. Kimi Räikkönen in 19th, Mick Schumacher 18th, Yuki Tsunoda 17th, and Antonio Giovinazzi 16th place. Moving on into Q2, you see a couple more people. Both Ferraris get out in Q2, which you find interesting, but it is might not be their day. Some people have a day, some people don't. George Russell had quite a day. Lance Stroll in 15th place, Fernando Alonso 14th, Carlos Sainz 13th, Nicholas Latifi 12th, and Charles Leclerc 11th. Moving on into the Q3. Now you have a couple guys just chilling, not trying to do too much. But then you also have those guys pushing. I would like to point out first Pierre Gasly, then Ricciardo, and then of course George Russell for his this is his second place qualifying, and he went on to technically, I don't know if you can technically count it as a podium, but he finished second in an F1 race, regardless of what condition he did it. And I think that's pretty impressive. How he can qualify. He is the Saturday man. Indeed, he's doing a pretty great job. But the top 10 shootout, pretty close times. Almost everyone trying to get within a second of each other from 1 to 5, essentially a second. Lando Norris, he does not set a time, so he goes 10th. Esteban Ocon in 9th, Valtteri Bottas in 8th, Sergio Perez in 7th, Pierre Gasly in 6th, Sebastian Vettel in 5th, Daniel Ricciardo in 4th, Lewis Hamilton in 3rd, George Russell setting a 2.00.086. Pretty fast lap compared to everything else that's going on. Yeah, it's relative, of course, but he was setting nice laps all day. And then you got Max Verstappen, who got pole. So he beat out Lewis Hamilton by 2 spots there. And it was interesting and that helps out with the points. Points, I believe, were cut in half, so it wasn't as much as Max Verstappen would have wanted, but it's still a point differential that can help him out. Half the points are better than none, especially when you're first and your competitor is third. But George Russell put some nice points on the board, 9 points for Williams there, and this is a pretty big feat to get that for George Russell. Going to be seeing a lot from him in the Merc this year, and seeing what he can do. Essentially, that's what I'm really interested in this year, seeing his potential and just everything that comes along with that. But essentially, that qualifying place was the same, with the exception of, I believe, Valtteri Bottas and Lance Stroll, who got penalized for a crash that they caused maybe. I believe so, but essentially the safety car drove them around for the 3 laps in order for half the points to be rewarded. So that's the technical rule. More than 2 laps in order for half the points to be awarded. So they got to cross the line three times to have, quote unquote, a race in technical terms. So it wasn't the most interesting race that you could have had. 3 laps, definitely kind of weird in the grand scheme of things, but it's a marking point for George Russell. I would say Daniel Ricciardo showed his pace, especially when you don't have ideal conditions. And then Lewis Hamilton, this stood as a budge for him to try to fight back, but I will tell you that he unfortunately he couldn't fight back. So yeah, that was the Belgium Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps. But if you guys want to hear more about it, let me know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, because that's essentially what I think of this race. And essentially, I think George Russell is going to be going by the end of his career. I'm thinking 2 world championships. That's my prediction. End of his career, 2 world championships. But you never know. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what this next season and the seasons ahead of us take. But if you guys enjoyed, leave a like on the video. Consider subscribing. Let me know your thoughts on the video. And until next time, guys, peace.